Waiting for 4:30. Ah, 4:30. Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Rhonda Hamm-Nabergy, and I'm the director here for St. Louis Lambert International Airport. It's 4:30, and we posted 4:30, so we're going to get started and be on time to be respectful for everyone's time. You know, I think this evening, this open house is a great opportunity for us to share a little bit about an exciting program that affects both our airport, but obviously affects the region as well. So this program that you're going to hear about tonight is all on airport property. We are really excited about the partnership that we've had for many years with Boeing, but also the growing partnership that we have as part of this new project. So tonight you're going to hear from a number of the Boeing representatives that are here. You'll also have an opportunity to talk with anyone from the airport staff. But thank you all for coming. Thank you for your interest in this project. And I'd like to turn it over to Randall Getzler. Randall is the Senior Director for Government Operations for Boeing. Thank you.
Well, good evening. As Rhonda said, I am Randall Getzler. I am the Senior Director for Government Operations here in St. Louis. I want to thank you all for coming to this open house. So there are three of us that will be providing this update. Myself, I'll start off with an update on this project overall. But then also we have Dan Drager. He's our Chief Pilot from Boeing Test and Evaluation. And then also Jill Graffenried. She's our Senior Director of Global Enterprise Sustainability. So before I get started, I just want to recognize a few others in the room. We have with us also Scott Tenner, the Environmental Project Manager from the FAA, here with us, and also Todd Madison, who is the Airport Capacity Program Manager and Missouri Planner. I know Administrator Meniche was not able to make it, unfortunately, but we know that he's up to date on this project as well. Also from the Missouri Department of Natural Resources, Christine Cupp and Michael Kostner. He's not, yep, okay, great. Let's go next. One more slide, please. So Boeing has a little over 16,000 employees in the greater St. Louis region and an annual payroll of just under $2 billion. We, as you can see on the map in the top right, we operate, when we refer to Boeing St. Louis, we refer to three distinct sites. The St. Louis site, which is host to the Boeing Defense production lines, Boeing Global Services, and our Phantom Works division. St. Charles is host to the production lines for our Precision Engagement business unit. And the St. Clair facility is one of our Boeing fabrication sites and also the future home of the MQ-25 final assembly. As you can see from the photos in the picture, a lot of products, a lot of diverse production lines in St. Louis. We produce the F-15EX Eagle II fighter jet, also the F-A-18 Super Hornet. You probably have heard that we have announced the end of new aircraft production, but we are continuing sustainment for that aircraft, so we will continue to have the same use of facilities here at the site for that. Also the T-7A Red Hawk trainer jet, the MQ-25 Stingray unmanned refueler, and the aft section for the Chinook CH-47 helicopter. One of the other unique things about St. Louis production site is we produce leading edges, trailing edges for the 777-9, so the rudder and elevator, so large structures for that aircraft get built here in St. Louis as well. We also have, as you can imagine, a large supplier footprint in Missouri. We spend more than $760 million in the state each year with over 360 suppliers. The other thing, and separate from the new project that we're about to discuss, we continue to invest in the site, and we've invested over $700 million alone in the site over the last decade. Let's go next slide. So Boeing's impact in the region is more than just economic. We recognize the importance of our community. We've invested more than $13 million in the community through charitable donations, community grant partners, and employee volunteer hours, and that was in 2022 alone. Boeing employees volunteered more than 54,000 hours of their time in the community through mentorships, cleanup programs, STEM fairs, and tutoring programs. And we focused those investments and those initiatives into 3 primary areas. The first being military veterans and their families, many initiatives that promote diversity and inclusion in under-resourced areas of the St. Louis community, and the third being STEM education opportunities and ensuring their availability for students of all ages and all backgrounds. We've recently invested also $3 million to support STEM programs to the Ferguson, Florissant, Riverview Gardens, and East St. Louis school districts. And we continue to invest in the talented workforce in the region through employee trainment programs, one that we've had for years with the St. Louis Community College, both 2 distinct courses, an assembly mechanic program and a composite specialist program. And we've also recently made an investment in the Advanced Manufacturing Innovation Center in North St. Louis City. So now on to the current project we're going to talk about today. We continue to hire, and we're hiring currently, and we're looking to hire more talent into the future with this expansion project. Boeing is in the process of building 2 state-of-the-art advanced manufacturing sites on St. Louis Lambert International Campus, it'll include many buildings, one of which an assembly building, a hangar, paint shop, site operations, and flight ramp space. It'll be a $1.8 billion expansion with expectation to create 500 new jobs and sustain existing jobs. The first phase will consist of a facility approximately 1.5 million square feet. And then also, as you can note on the slide, it's 2 distinct properties. One, the Brownlee property, which is 109 acres, and the northern tract, which is 76 acres. And just last week, Mayor Tashara Jones signed the lease legislation, so we're very excited about that progress. So now we're going to cover questions at the end. Next, I'll pass it to Dan Drager to talk about flight operations.
Well, good evening, and thanks for joining us. So, Dan Drager, Flight Operations Chief Pilot. I want to talk a little bit about the impact that this activity will have in the local area. So, we don't anticipate any changes to the actual operation of aircraft over this transition to what we're doing next. There's been a long history of operating aircraft here. We have some detailed procedures that are integrated with the air traffic control facilities, that require scripted entry and exit, and we don't anticipate any changes to those procedures over the time that we're operating.
Excuse me, sir.
Yep.
They've got some mics up here, so if we can put that back and we can speak behind the podium.
Okay.
They'd appreciate it.
I'm being told to stay in the box, which is very hard for a pilot to do, but I'll try that out. Okay. The patterns that we're going to operate will be the same patterns that we're familiar with the F-15, F-18, and T-7 that you've seen operating here. There'd be no reason to operate differently. Those patterns are specific to how we operate with the civil traffic here and per agreement with the air traffic control facilities. We see no reason to change that, those operating procedures. We operate typically dawn to dusk. Those are rules that we live with the government when we operate these airplanes, and it's a dawn to dusk type of operation. You probably are familiar, every once in a while we have deliveries as the airplanes move out, and some of those might go off in the early morning hours. That has to do with the daylight associated with where those airplanes will eventually land, and there are strict rules about that, so sometimes we have to push them out late at night or early in the morning, but that's a rare event, and we don't anticipate for daily operations that we're going to operate at nighttime at all. You'll note the bar chart here that the daily operations we don't see changing substantially. So some of you have been following in the news that the F-18 production line is reaching an end. That was about a 2 airplane per month activity. As that drops off, this airplane and the T-7 will continue to ramp, and the EX stays approximately level, and so what we see is essentially no change to the flight operations tempo here. So the amount of airplanes you see in the pattern is going to be about the same amount of airplanes you see in the pattern from Boeing going forward. With that, I will pass the mic off to Jill. So over to Jill.
All right, thanks, Dan. Let's see, shifting over to environmental impacts, if we go to the next chart. An environmental assessment was completed by Jacobs per the National Environmental Policy Act, and this allowed us to identify and review a handful of potential environmental concerns. And as a result of that, we've identified various sustainability-related mitigation measures that we can incorporate into our planning. Boeing is very actively working to leverage industry best practices as we advance on this project with respect to the environmental aspects of the project. From an air quality perspective, we're in process already on the permitting required, and our facilities planned will be compliant to all of the air quality requirements at all levels, local, state, federal. As mentioned, those air permits are already in work for phase 1, and they'll be sought in advance of every construction phase that we have. Additionally, throughout the construction, we'll be working to implement best practices to make sure that we reduce exhaust and dust where possible. Shifting gears a bit to the hazardous materials, Boeing, under the oversight of the Missouri Department of Natural Resources, has thoroughly investigated the site and implemented remedies to protect workers in the community from any legacy impacts. Controls are in place to ensure that the proposed redevelopment project does not adversely affect human health or the environment. A new self-contained low-volume wastewater treatment system has been designed using the latest technologies and best practices, and the state-of-the-art system will help to minimize any potential impacts on the environment. Prior to the start of any demolition of existing structures, additional surveys will be completed to make sure that any hazardous materials can be managed appropriately within our permitting and regulatory requirements. Boeing and the Missouri Department of Resources have established regular meetings to discuss the project, the scope, the timing, as well as the preliminary construction plans to ensure that the project is performed in a safe and environmentally protective manner. And Missouri Department of Resources will be, Department of Natural Resources will be on site on a routine basis throughout the construction process. From a traffic perspective, we're not anticipating a major change to any of those construction patterns. We expect them to remain pretty similar to the current patterns that we experience today, even with that addition of 500 jobs. Some road improvements are planned currently, though, to address and make sure that we've got support for efficient flow of traffic in the area. As this development proceeds, Boeing will also be coordinating with the St. Louis County as well as the state of Missouri to ensure that we improve the roads adjacent to the site as needed to accommodate the construction. And while this will require funding, we're committed to working with both the county and the state to ensure that there are safe roads adjacent to the site for both our community and our employees. Can we go to the next slide? I want to talk briefly about Boeing's commitment to sustainability. Sustainability is something that is rooted in our company values, and it's also in our stakeholder expectations. What you see on this chart is the 4 areas where we talk about how we embed this inside our organization today. And it's truly a focus on environmental stewardship, social progress and inclusion, as well as transparent, values-based governance of our company. We look to embed sustainability across all phases of our life cycle. So we look not only at the products and services that we deliver, but also the operations and the production system that support them. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper on what that operations piece looks like today and what's going on in this project in particular with the consideration towards the people and communities around us. We've considered a number of sustainable practices to support the environment and well-being throughout the development of this project. And some examples include looking at increasing the renewable energy for this project and sourcing that in a way that will meet both the energy needs and support the operations proposed. Some of those things might include solar or other green alternative energy solutions. Additionally, we've been incorporating LEED design standards into the work to enhance the efficiency of the buildings themselves, using innovative and best practice approaches for our rainwater management, including low-impact development, landscaping infrastructure, and then capture and reuse on site. We have a focus on building a connection to nature within these site plans, and so we have plans for walking paths, benches, and then landscape features that'll have educational signage, as well as restoring habitats through the use of native plants. We're going to continue on our sustainability journey as a company, and we're excited to be able to use this project as a way to implement improvements to the site. Now I'm going to hand it back to Randall, who will take us to the next section.
All right, so now that concludes the briefing. I know some of you have questions. So the way we've divided up the room, we have 4 stations. If we go back, yeah. So there are 4 stations. As you look behind you in this hall is the first station, is what is NEPA and what are the organizational roles. Now we're going to have subject matter experts at each station to answer questions. Please, take your time, browse, ask questions, and I'll get to how you can record those. So it's a little bit different than what's on the diagram, but right behind you is Station 1. Station 2 is to my right, to your left, the description of proposed actions and alternatives, and you can see some of the diagrams of what I talked about with the Brownlee and Northern tracks and the locations for the planned construction. Station 3, resources evaluated and their impact is over to my left, your right. And then Station 4, which is stakeholder and public involvement, is if you look at the bottom, how can you ask comments and questions and how can they be submitted? So they can be submitted in 4 ways. You can scan the QR codes on the placards, which are over in this corner with the light blue wall. You can also, in that same area, there's paper on the tables. You can fill out a paper comment in the public comment area or mail it to the contacts listed on the place card. So that's over on those tables. Also, we have a court recorder here to my left and in your front this court reporter is provided for you, but you can record your verbal comment to her as well. Or you can do it on the web via online comment at flystl.com. So multiple ways, but these comments are on the environmental assessment draft are accepted through October 26th. So with that concludes the brief, and please take your time to review the placards around the room. Thank you.